Okay, now I'm going to do topic 2. I'm going to go old school and do it on a chalkboard. So this is topic 2 of our test. So I'm going to kind of just go over some things that you should think about for each test question. So question number 1, no matter which version you had, we were told that we have a rhombus. So we should be thinking about the properties that we know about a rhombus. Like for instance, all 4 sides are equal. We also know on a rhombus, diagonals are perpendicular, so 4 right angles are formed there. We also know that those diagonals bisect opposite angles. So those 2 angles are equal, these 2 angles are equal, these 2 angles are equal, and these 2 angles are equal. So you should be thinking about how you've got a shape where we told you, like, I don't know, let's say we told you this angle right here. Well, this angle is going to be equal to that angle. These 2 angles are also equal. And we know each of these are 90 degrees. So you should be able to use that information to figure out the things that they're telling you in there. And then also, all of the angles inside of a triangle add up to be 180. So that should help you find this angle right here. All right, that's question number 1. Let's see. Let me erase all that. All right, question number 2. Question number 2, we're told it's a parallelogram. So you got to know all your things about a parallelogram. They gave you information about the diagonals on this. So one special thing about a parallelogram is that diagonals bisect each other. So, they gave you something for this segment right here in the picture. They also gave you something for this segment right here. Well, those 2 segments equal each other, so you should set them equal to each other. They also gave you information about these 2 segments. Well, they are equal to each other. So you're going to set those equal to each other. You're going to have to set up 2 separate equations, though, so that you can do a system of equations. So you need 2 equations, and then you're going to have to solve those 2 equations using either elimination or substitution, whichever method you like best. All right, let's do question 3. All right, so question 3, you were told that you have a rectangle. So if it's a rectangle, things that are special about a rectangle is that you've got 4 right angles. Oops, that does not look like a right angle. You're also, another thing that's special about a rectangle is that the diagonals are all equal to each other, which means that this angle right here is equal to this angle right here. Those base angles are equal to each other. So, and then the other thing is these 2 angles right here, they're going to add up to be 90. So the one that I have a dot plus the one with the X, and those are going to add up to be 90 degrees. So whatever they gave you for those, let's say, let me make it a little better. If I told you this were A and this were B, and I told you that it's a rectangle, then you know that A plus B would equal 90 degrees. Once you get that, then you can figure out what this angle A is, and this angle here will also be the same because this is an isosceles triangle and those base angles are equal to each other. All right, let's do question 4. So in question 4, you're told that it's a parallelogram. So one of the properties of a parallelogram is that opposite angles are equal to each other. This one's pretty basic. You just set those opposite angles equal to each other and you solve for X and Y. All right. Question 5. Let's see. You're told that it's a rhombus. That's supposed to be a number 5 in there. Sorry about that. All right. So if you're told it's a rhombus, let's see. They gave you information about one of these angles in the middle. I mean, if you remember that, let's say I named this part in the middle right here, that's G. Angle AGB equals 90 degrees. So does angle BGC, it equals 90 degrees. And so does angle DGC. And so does angle AGD. Each of these are the angles right here in the middle that I'm naming. And notice that every single one of those have G as the middle letter because that's your vertex angle. And those middle angles all have to equal 90 degrees because it's a rhombus. So that should be enough to help you with question number 5. All right. Question number 6. You should know that it's a parallelogram based on the words in the problem. They tell you these streets are parallel to each other and these streets are parallel to each other. So then when you have these diagonals in there, alternate interior angles are going to be equal. So this angle will equal this angle. This angle will equal this angle. This angle will equal this angle. I'm running out of shapes. This angle will equal this angle. And then you know that each of those angles inside of there in those triangles have to add up to be 180 degrees. So I'm just going to give an example that's not the same as this picture. But let's say that I told you, I don't know, this angle is 30 degrees. That would make this 30 over here because alternate interior angles are equal. Let's say I told you that this was 50 right here. Well, this would have to be 50 here. And then let's see. I know that inside of here, I'm just making up stuff here. Let's say that this angle here was 40. Then this angle here has to be 40. And let's say that let's say we've got that this angle here is 30 and 50. Well, those add up to be 80. When I do 180 minus 30 minus 50, I get that this angle here has to be 100. Well, vertical angles are equal, so that's also 100. Well, another thing that's special is that these two angles form a linear pair. So this has to be 80 right here. Well, if that's 80, then those three angles inside of here have to add up to be 180. So I'm going to do 180 minus that 80 minus that 40, which gives me that this angle here has to be 60. And then this angle has to be 60. So that all of those add up to be 180 as well. All right, so that should help you with number 6. Okay, so number 7. This one we were told that we have a mid-segment. Well, I know that it's a mid-segment because remember the definition of a mid-segment on a trapezoid. I know it's a trapezoid because I was told it was a trapezoid in a problem. But one thing about a mid-segment is a mid-segment's parallel to the bases. The other thing about a mid-segment is that it's connecting midpoints. And I know that those are midpoints because this was marked congruent to this and this was marked congruent to this. Well, we learned a formula that said the mid-segment. This is the mid-segment right here. The mid-segment, I guess I should label all of this. This is base 1 and this is base 2. The mid-segment equals half of those bases added together. So base 1 plus base 2. Or you can say 2 times the mid-segment equals those two bases added together. So that should help you with that one. All right, question 8. Okay, you're told you have a kite. All right, and then you were given information about that kite. One thing that you should know, though, on a kite is that diagonals are perpendicular to each other. And you were asked to find the perimeter, which means that you need to know what that side is, but I know these two sides are equal to each other. I know these two sides are going to be equal to each other. I also know that this is a right triangle right here, and I can use Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, to get this side over here. And remember, this could be your a and this could be your b. It really doesn't matter which one's which, but what does matter is that the side across from your right angle is the c. So you'll have to do that for both that triangle and this triangle right here in order to figure out these side lengths on the outside. And then once you get that, we know that to get the perimeter, you just add up all the sides. So you're going to be adding this side plus this side plus this side plus this side to get your perimeter. But you'll need to use the Pythagorean theorem in order to do that. All right. Question 9. On this one, we're told we have a rectangle. That does not look like a rectangle. Let me do that better. So you know you have a rectangle in question 9. And you're given information about the diagonals on that one. Well, remember, on a rectangle, something special about a rectangle is that all diagonals are equal to each other. So you were given information about this diagonal here. Well, it's going to be equal to this diagonal here. So let's say I told you that this was x. You could go ahead and label this x as well because they're the same. And then if I were told that this was y, then this would be y right here also. But I also know that y equals x because those are all equal to each other. So you should be able to set up an equation knowing that this is going to be equal to this right here. Then once you get that, you can use that to figure out this whole length by adding those two parts together. All right, question number 10. All right, now we're talking about a square. So remember, on a square, it's a rectangle. So if they give you information about diagonals, you know all of those parts are equal to each other. So you should be able to figure out, if they gave you something about this particular, well, if they gave you information about the diagonals, you know diagonals are equal. I'm going to write that here. So that would give you enough to solve for x. Then also remember that on a square is also a rhombus, and so that means that these are all perpendicular right here. So let's say you ended up with, I'm just making this up, this has nothing to do with your problem, but let's say that I told you this were 20 right here. This would also be 20, this would be 20, and this would be 20 if you calculated it and figured that out. Well, then you could do Pythagorean theorem because you've got a squared plus b squared equals c squared. This is your a, this is your b, and this is your c. Remember, your c is across from your right angle. So you can do a squared plus b squared equals c squared to get that side length. And then once you get the side length, then you can get the perimeter. Because remember, the perimeter is you adding up all four sides. Which, because it's a rhombus, all four sides should be equal. So all you really need to do is find one of those sides and then multiply it by 4. You were allowed a calculator, so you just type that in your calculator. All right, let's do question 11. All right, on 11, you've got a trapezoid. I know it's a trapezoid. I'm showing that those two sides are parallel to each other. All I know is that it's a trapezoid. I don't know that it's isosceles. I was not told this information. That's not something I was told, so I can't use that. But what I do know that is on a trapezoid, I've got one pair of sides that are parallel. That means that the same side interior angles are supplementary. So that means that this angle and this angle have to add up to be 180. So that's an equation that you could set up to solve for this one right here, knowing that those two angles have to add up to 180. Incidentally, this angle and this angle are also going to add up to be 180. Because again, they're same side interior angles between those parallel lines. All right. Let's do question 12. Oh no, that's it. Okay. All right. Well, that should help you with those corrections. And if you have any other questions, please feel free to come and ask me. I'm in room D208. Thanks. Bye.